we use that word failure, but I think what we mean by that is we didn't get what we wanted. Well, not getting what you wanted doesn't mean you should stop.
Yeah.
And little kids do that. They throw temper tantrums and like, oh, I didn't get what I wanted. Well, we would now as adults define that as failure. And so we're not going to take that next step. That's that saying we use in the jiu-jitsu community a lot is, I never lose. I either win or learn.
Yeah.
Right? I don't fail. I win or learn. And I think that's what it is. You may not get what you want, but yeah, you need to embrace that and then take that next step. Hello and welcome to the March or Die show today. This is the show where every episode we do our best to give you the perspectives and principles you need to march when it would be easier to stay where you are and die. Life can be overwhelming for sure. But how do you take that next hard step when the easier thing would be to just stay where you are, to throw in the towel, to give up? We need to know how to march, and that's what we do on this show. And we're excited to have you along for the ride. My name is Jeremy, here with Sean, and excited to talk about today one of what we would consider the principles.
Yes.
For march or die, right?
Absolutely.
One of the principles for marching forward. And we're going to do that. Before we get there, though, if you're not yet subscribed to the show, do it right now. Don't wait. Do it right now. Subscribe to the show wherever you are listening or watching from. That would be fantastic. And then take some time, go over to the website for the show, marchordie.com, marchordie.com. Some great content there. Our archive is there. Other stuff for you to look at. It's all right there. So please check that out. But we're going to jump into this. Before we do, it's been a few weeks since we've been together.
Yeah.
How are things?
Good.
In the world of Sean Kennard.
Man, it's been good. You know, my hand is healing up. I'm thinking about stepping back in the cage.
Sure. You broke your hand last time you fought. Why not do it again?
Why not fight again? Some people would call that insanity, but we're going to do it. So, but it's good, man. It's good to get back into training. Yeah. It's good to feel like I can, do the things that I love. So it's been good.
How long do you plan on fighting?
Ooh, it's a good question.
Yeah.
And I actually love this question because I get asked a lot because I'm doing well right now.
Yeah.
And so fighting for me is fun and I want to keep it fun.
Yeah.
So here recently there's been a little bit more discussion of like, hey, stay on this track. You could get a call from UFC, right?
It just may not be as fun.
Right. And exactly right. As soon as I started thinking that way, stress started to come and mount on me. And so I'll fight until it's no longer fun or until it's costing me, what I would consider higher priorities, in my life. Like, I say this a lot. No matter what I achieve in the cage, if I'm not leading as a husband and as a father, then all that's really nothing, So, and I could say that and, sound cool. I mean, I struggle with I want to fight. Because, I do my best to, I think obviously I always say God's the true ultimate fighter.
Yeah.
The only one that's, done it truly undefeated. but I would lie if I said there wasn't some, personal pursuit of glory found in it,
That's a hard line to walk, right? Because it doesn't matter if it's fighting or something at work, a promotion or whatever. You always have to go through that. Is it wise in light of, this is how we ask the question in our programs. It's not bad, but is it what's best?
Yeah.
Best for what? Best for my families, best for my other priorities.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough.
It is. And right now it's been fruitful. And so I use that as the test for me.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, am I seeing fruit from me fighting and not winning? Because that's great. Yeah. And sure, there's a side of that that's fruitful. But for me, I have guys, I had a guy reach out to me, not that long ago. We fought on the same card and he just, I guess, has followed some of my content and reached out to me and was like, hey man, I'm kind of struggling with what it looks like to be a man. And not that I'm the perfect example of that, but I was somebody in his life. We talked about this in our previous identity and purpose, piece that he saw as an opportunity to get into community with and to help strengthen him in a specific area. And so to me, there's a level of fruit that comes from being in that arena, being in that cage. And right now I'm seeing that fruit and I'll continue to discern that and question that as much as I can. And I spend time thinking when this is no longer fruitful, or when this is no longer going to be life-giving to me or my family or the mission that I'm trying to accomplish, then please let me know,
Yeah. You just need to have the discernment to understand when that moment comes.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So I've never fought MMA. I train jiu-jitsu, but
just so we're clear, you're a brown belt in jiu-jitsu.
I'm a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. So
legit.
Yeah, super legit. But when fighters say, and I know a lot of fighters say it's fun, most people, the only context they have for MMA is UFC, right?
Yeah,
so you've got these guys screaming at each other and calling each other names, and they hate each other. And what do you mean it's fun? That's a whole different thing. For most people, it's same thing that's happening in the gym, same thing as training. In fact, for a lot of people, I think whoever you're fighting in the cage, you've probably trained with.
Yeah.
Or seen at a tournament somewhere, or done something else, or whatever. There's no hate. There's no love lost. It's a sport.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've had that question asked for me before. How can you be a Christian and fight somebody? It's a sport. Like I truly have no malice for the person that I enter the cage against. I'm not trying to kill him. Right. I have a goal to accomplish, and if I have to do damage in that process, knowing that we both agreed to this rule set, then I'll do that. But I actually legitimately, and my wife can say this is true. We before every fight, we sit and pray, and I pray for my opponents.
Yeah.
I pray for victory. Don't get me wrong. Like I pray for victory,
right?
But I pray that there is no life-altering injury. There will be injuries.
Yeah.
I pray for no life-altering injuries.
What if your opponent is praying too? Does God just choose his favorite?
That's actually we should do a podcast
I always wonder
on
about that.
We should do
praying too.
Yeah, we should do a podcast on that one day and say, hey, where does God show favor and why? Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I hope he is. I mean, honestly, I hope the Lord heeds my prayers more than his, to be fair. But yeah, I mean, it's a tough line to walk. And I think that the things that we do, whether it be fighting or running or at some level, whatever it is we're pursuing, I think the Lord takes joy in seeing us do the things that we love.
I agree.
And so I think that, like we've talked about before, as long as it's not violating some other aspect of who it is that you claim to be,
right,
then it's good.
Yeah, there's a right way and a wrong way to do everything.
Yeah,
including that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a sport. It's hard for people to understand that, but we could talk about that all day. But let's get to what we were actually going to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it.
Perseverance. Perseverance is the topic on the table today. This is one of what we would call a kind of a cornerstone or foundational principle for march or die.
Yeah.
For moving forward when life becomes difficult. You have to be a person that understands and engages in this life of perseverance. I've made the statement before that I view perseverance as almost a superpower because so few people are willing to take the next hard step.
Yeah.
You look at the world around us and it's easy to compare, but you can see people who have a lot of opportunity. They have the right background. They have these kind of innate gifts, this potential that we would talk about, but they never do anything with it. Or they do something with it to a point, but then the friction in their life becomes such that they don't continue to move forward.
Yeah.
Well, what's the difference between someone who ultimately succeeds and someone who doesn't? I think it's perseverance.
Yeah. I
think it's pushing through whatever that roadblock is and taking the next step. But how do you live a life of perseverance? And that's what we're going to talk about. So I told you I had 5 things and you have 7 things. So I don't know if we're going to get through all of them.
Maybe
we're going to do our best.
How cool would it be if they were the same things? Yeah, we'll see. We'll find out.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
That'd be interesting.
All right. That's like 2 people praying for a victory. We'll see what happens. See who God loves more.
That's right.
All right. So when we talk about perseverance, let's start with this. I don't know if this is on your list, but why don't you define what you think it means to be a person of perseverance? I was going to say perseverance. I don't know if that's the right word or not.
Yeah. A person who perseveres.
Person who perseveres. What does it mean to, what are we talking about when we say perseverance?
Yeah, I think in the simplest way, it's having your mission, your vision, whatever it is, that's defined clearly. And when you face opposition, you continue to move forward. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the simplest way.
Just continuing to move forward.
You're just continuing to move forward, knowing what your goal is.
Yeah.
And you don't allow, the woes and the, the opinions of others or the hardship that you encounter, because you will encounter hardship along the way, to stop you from achieving that goal.
And I think difficulties, hardships, that's kind of baked into perseverance.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just movement.
Exactly.
If there's nothing pushing back on you, it's just movement.
Then it wouldn't be defined as perseverance.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you think about how to be a person of perseverance, what's number one on your list? What's the first thing?
Well, this one's kind of a cheat. I won't go into it long, so I'll jump to number 2 on my list. But the first one is something that we've already talked about, is finding your identity and purpose.
Yeah.
So we did a whole episode on that, and the geniuses.
I had know your why written down.
Good. So which is all about identity and purpose, right? So the geniuses who sit on the real working side of the camera, I'm sure they can put a plug in for people to see that episode. But I put that first. Knowing your why, or your identity and purpose, I think is what's going to keep you on the path.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to define why I started this thing in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. Okay. So after that one,
this one
we haven't talked about.
Yeah. So this one I'll dive into a little bit deeper, and it's something that hit me. It's been really life-giving to me, and it's I guess I would just title it "Embracing Failure."
That's good.
And what kind of broke for me, this kind of broke through this concept for me, is the idea that failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is a part of success. And so in today's world, we view failure as the opposite of success. That if I fail, therefore I am not succeeding. And maybe for a lot of people, that means I should stop doing what I'm doing. And to me, there is no succession without failure. There is nobody in this world that has achieved anything in life worth noting that did not fail at some point in their life. Yeah. I heard this interview, and people probably know this quote from Michael Jordan, but somebody's interviewing him, and they're talking about his success. They're talking about his success. He's, the greatest basketball player that ever lived. Arguably still that. I mean, some people say LeBron James. I still think it's Michael Jordan.
Sure.
He goes on to quote, I've missed over 900 shots. I've been, I forget the words. I've been, expected to take the winning shot X amount of times and missed. I've failed.
Lots of failure.
Over and over and over again in my life. And that's why I succeed. And so I think if we can break the idea that failure means the opposite of success and realize that failure is a part of succeeding, that's that perspective switch that we talk a lot about, march or die, then we can truly accomplish our goal because it's just a part of the process.
It's even defining failure, right? We use that word failure, but I think what we mean by that is we didn't get what we wanted. Well, not getting what you wanted doesn't mean you should stop.
Yeah.
Little kids do that. They throw temper tantrums and are like, I didn't get what I wanted. Well, we would now as adults define that as failure. And so we're not going to take that next step. That's that saying we use in the jiu-jitsu community a lot is, I never lose. I either win or learn.
Yeah.
Right? I don't fail. I win or learn. And I think that's what it is. You may not get what you want, but you need to embrace that and then take that next step.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
No, I agree.
That's good.
Absolutely.
So on my list, I had know your why, but the next thing was pre-decide. And this is something we talk about a lot, is making a pre-decision. For me, in my adult life, this concept of pre-decision is probably one of the most powerful things I've learned, and that's helped me. When you are in the middle of a fight, when you're in the middle of an obstacle, a difficulty, a pushback, a failure, perceived or otherwise, that's not the time to decide what you're going to do next. You have to make that decision ahead of time. That's why you train. That's why you prepare. That's why you go through this process of thinking about the future. Honestly, in a lot of ways, this is why you spend time in church and studying the Bible and understanding what God wants for your life, is because you're making the decisions in the moments of peace, relative peace, about what you're going to do when the conflict comes.
Yeah.
And I think perseverance, sometimes we're just tired, legitimately so. I've tried this and it hasn't worked. There are more forces coming against me than I expected. This relationship hasn't worked out the way that I thought it would. A lot of relationship issues. You hear people say things like, I'm just very tired. I've been trying this for so long. I can't do this anymore. We were talking about, earlier today, we were talking about suicide. September is Suicide Prevention Month, and there's a lot of conversations around that. Well, pre-decide. decide now that whatever happens in your life, you're not going to take your life, right?
Yeah.
But the power of that, you don't keep moving forward if you're trying to decide right now with the world on top of you what you're going to do next.
Yeah.
You have to have already made that decision.
Yeah. I like that. To me, it fits with my next one, which I would say is strategy.
Yeah.
So
right.
There's a pre-decision part of that, right? Like, I'm big on talking to people about strategy, planning, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
I call it strategy.
Yeah.
I call it the tactician's mindset.
Yeah.
It's creating a specific strategy to achieve a specific end. And so whatever it is that you're pursuing in your life, you need to create a plan on how to pursue that and how to achieve that. And you need to be realistic. I think people, often are like, well, how do I achieve this? They want to achieve, again, we use this example a lot because we both do it. I want to be a black belt.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what does that look like to you? Right. Write it down.
Yeah.
I think developing a plan of action on how you want to achieve in actionable steps, true digestible steps on how to achieve that specific plan is a strategy.
Yep.
And you need a strategy to be successful in anything in life.
Yeah.
And so I think developing a strategy, a pre-decision, like how am I going to do this? What's it look like for me to achieve this? It's gonna help you take little wins along the way. Because if you're like, I'm a black belt, I want to be a black belt. Well, 2 years down the road, you're a blue belt. You're like, man, it's going to take me forever to get a black belt. As opposed to being like,
it probably will.
And it will, right? As opposed to being like, okay, this is my plan of black belt. In 2 years, I want to achieve my blue belt. Well, guess what? You just got to win because you achieved your blue belt.
Yeah.
And that will help you stay on track when you're trying to achieve your goal.
Yeah. The strategy is so important. I said this a different way, but put the right pieces in place. So when you pre-decide, and again, this all goes back to you have to know your why, your identity and purpose. You have to have defined that already. Where am I going?
Yeah.
And once you've done that, then the other steps fall into place, but put the right pieces in place. So part of strategy is I have a plan. Now, what pieces am I putting in place to accomplish that plan?
Yeah.
And, to your kind of analogy there, if it's to get a black belt, whatever it is, but it's to get a black belt. Okay. Well, I can have that. I can even set that goal to have my blue belt in 2 years or whatever. But am I signed up for classes?
Yeah. How many times do I feel like I need to
are?
attend? Exactly.
Have I set up my work schedule and my home life so that I can do that? How far do I live from the gym? Right? Like all of these things, you need to put the right pieces in place. Again, so you're not trying to figure it out on the fly.
Yeah.
And that's part of strategy, I think.
Yeah. I agree 100%. Yeah. To me, that's one of the biggest things I think that make people fail is that they don't create a strategy. Yeah. And I even tell people like, hey, write it down.
Yeah.
And people are like, I think they, for some reason, feel like that's stupid. I'm like, well,
talk to me later.
Yeah. You're going to feel real stupid when you're years down the road and you actually haven't achieved the goals that you set out for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. When we talk about this, so let's kind of maybe a little more concrete for specific examples. Developing a strategy, putting the right pieces in place. Again, now I'm thinking in my mind, we're at a moment of peace, relative peace. This isn't the moment of crisis. So this is all part of the pre-decide, plan, strategy, like we're putting all this together. So some concrete examples, right? In your marriage relationship, what does this look like? Having a strategy, putting the right pieces in place, believing that because we're two broken people, eventually we're going to have some struggles.
Yeah.
What am I doing now to set myself up for success then?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, for me personally, and we talked about this a little bit even previously, is am I treating, for your example, the marriage, right? Am I treating that as a priority in my life?
Yeah.
Right. So if it's enough of a priority that I need to develop a strategy for it, then obviously it is a priority in my life. And so I think that being intentional about the time that you create in your very, very busy schedule, that we all have an extremely busy schedule, right? A time that you create in your very busy schedule that is specifically designed or specifically blocked out for you to spend on working on your marriage, whether that's a weekly date or you guys are doing some program together. I when I was younger married, I one of these, men that I was using to build community with was actually would block out, no joke, a meeting time on his calendar. It was a scheduled meeting, but it was for his wife.
Yeah.
And so it's just, that was really powerful for me because it was very intentional.
Yep.
It was very intentional for him to specifically block out time. Not like, hey, we're going to have time this week. You tell your wife, hey, we're going to go on a date this week. No, like
where, what does that look like?
The pre-decision you talked about earlier. I have pre-decided that at this block in time, I have created to spend time with my wife.
Good.
And so for me, that's been life-giving. I mean, you guys have been married for 26 years. So about 10 years longer than us. So
it's a shock to me as much as my wife.
Yeah.
More to her.
As much as yeah. How about you? What's some stuff that you guys have used?
I don't think we've been very good at this. A lot of what I would say, and I give a lot of advice to couples now. It's funny being in this stage of life where young couples will say, can we get dinner with you guys? We want to learn some things. I'm able to tell them what I wish we had done. But to me, once you've made the pre-decision and you're putting together this plan, we want to be successful. I think you have to have the right people in your life. Don't wait. This frustrates me so bad. Don't wait until you're not talking to each other.
Yeah.
And you need marriage counseling because you're trying to recover something to put the right people in your life. Figure out who the right people are.
Yeah.
And have regular times where you meet up with them. Put it on your calendar.
Yeah.
And spend time with these people. Again, I'm not good at this, but read a book on marriage together and you guys can discuss it. So you're dealing with these issues that may come up in the future before all the emotion and the hurt and everything that goes along with that is there. So you're pre-deciding along the way. You're understanding what to do. Go to conferences, do those things. Yeah, just pour into your marriage when you're healthy.
Yeah.
So that when
don't wait till
the bumps and the bruises come along, you're making the right decisions.
I love that. I love that note. It's such a powerful note that people don't even think about. Like, I like it because it's action versus reaction.
Yeah.
And to be really successful at something, you have to be active and not reactive. Yeah. And the point you're making is don't wait until you have to react to, oh my gosh, we're in this traumatic situation in our life where, we're basically two roommates living in a house, take action before it gets to that point.
It's crazy when you have these conversations with couples that are like, well, I know we need help, but I'm too mad at them to sit down and get help or whatever. Well, kind of pre-help, right? Like get the help before you get there. It.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big one for couples. And I think when we talk about marching, when it would be easier to just stay where you are, you just kind of cocoon, already have those principles in place and the people in place. And I think that's really important. And the same goes with all of the other areas of life. You need to bring good counsel around you.
Yeah.
And we talk about the 4 B's: be in the Word, be in prayer, be in community, be around consistently, whether you need it or not. Be around good people who are speaking truth into your life.
Yeah.
And then put some mentors in your life who can speak hard truth into your life.
Yeah.
That's putting the right pieces in place before you need it.
Yeah. Yeah. I have this, we obviously at least hit this one on the head. We both had this one. I have community written down as one of my topics. And, it's usually the first thing I suggest to somebody when they want something to change in their life. Yeah. So, somebody reaches out to me and they're like, hey, I'm really trying to, change my path. What are some things that I can do? And usually the first thing I'll say is, what does your community look like?
Yeah, right.
Right. Are they pursuing? Yes. Are they pursuing the same things that you're pursuing? Or are they pursuing the life that you're trying to get away from?
Right.
Right. If you want to change your play, you have to change your playmates. You have to change your play. And sometimes you have to change your playground.
Yeah.
Right. You got to get away from those people altogether. So it's so powerful. Community is so powerful. It has been so life-giving to me and my wife individually, also in our marriage together.
Yeah.
And just having that supportive system to fall on when things are really, really hard, because we're not meant to do it alone, but people try to do it alone.
Yeah.
And when you try to do it alone, I mean, it usually, most of the time, at least in my experience, ends up in destruction.
Yeah. Isolation absolutely destroys us.
Yeah.
And what I've seen and what I've experienced personally is when I hit those trials and those obstacles, whatever they are, that I want to isolate, I want to pull back. And some of that is pride because I don't want people to know I don't have it figured out. Some of it is maybe embarrassment because I made a mistake that put me in that spot.
Yeah.
Or embarrassment because of how I'm being treated by someone else and I don't want other people to know that.
Yeah.
Some of it is just fatigue. I'm just tired. I'm worn out. but it all causes you want to pull in. And what you need to do is lean in to that community of people that are around you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of the hardest things to do, especially I think as men. Which is why I try to harp on this as much as possible. I think one of the most powerful things in the world that a man can do is actually ask for help.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
I mean, men are like, I don't need help. I can figure it out on my own. And it's one of the most, you know, one of the signs that I think is an example of you're a strong, confident man is that you're willing to go to somebody else and say, hey, I need some help. Doesn't make you weaker that you need help. It makes you powerful that you're willing to, that you were able to recognize that there was an issue in your life that you needed to address.
Yeah. And
you took the hard steps forward to address that issue.
Yeah, that's good. One of the leadership traits that the Marine Corps teaches is know yourself and seek self-improvement. And that, to me, that speaks to that is you have to know where you're weak, know where you have gaps.
Yeah.
And then, you know, find people or find, you know, whatever you need to build that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Absolutely.
One of the other things that I think is helpful when we're talking about perseverance is chronicling your journey. I say that because I don't like journal, right? Or keep a diary.
Yeah.
You call it whatever you want, I guess, but there is something powerful in my life, and I don't keep a daily journal or anything like that. I don't personally. I know people do, but I don't. But often I'll sit down, I have a book, and I'll sit down and write some things that have been going on in my life, some lessons that I've learned. And I'm, you know, in my mind, I'm always thinking like someday my kids will get this and it'll help them. Maybe, I don't know, probably end up in the trash. But what it does for me is at those low moments, it gives me an opportunity to go back and remember like, oh, I struggled that way before. Or I had these thoughts or these feelings before. And this is what I learned. And there's something very powerful and helpful about going back and knowing you've been here before and it's okay.
Yeah.
And you can keep moving forward. So I think chronicling your journey, however you do that is, at least in my life, has been a pretty powerful tool.
Yeah. Yeah. This wasn't something I written down, but you kind of struck this when you were talking about that and kind of plays into, you know, that practice of, what I would call it is like testing yourself or checking yourself, I guess is the right example. So for me, and this kind of plays into all we've talked about, creating a strategy, pre-decision, all these things that you have along the path. Well, I think it's important to check yourself like along the way, right? And to say, hey, how am I doing here along the way?
Yeah.
You know, I teach a lot of firearms training and a lot of guys, I would get out on the range and we go and shoot and I'd be like, okay, go and shoot. Let me see kind of where you're at. And they go and shoot and we go and look at their target. And I'm like, okay, what happened? They're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, what do you think happened here? I don't know.
Yeah.
And the reason is because when they go out and shoot, they go out, they load their rounds, they shoot at the paper, they leave. There's no process of self, you know, hey, reflection, like what did I do here? Why did this happen? Right. You know, when I drew and shot, what happened to my round? And when people start to realize how to do that, then they improve their shooting significantly. Yeah. So go out and perform a task.
Yep.
And then evaluate how that task went, and then consider ways that you can improve your performance in that specific task. Yeah, it's been so life-giving to me, and I think not that I do it perfectly, I have to remind myself all the time, but you know, what'd you call it?
Chronicling your journey.
Chronicling your journey. That's difficult. Yeah, journaling. I don't like to say journal. Whatever you want to say, right? Yeah. And I'll say this. I mean, I don't do it all the time, but I like to write because it does that for me. Not because I enjoy writing. I like the fact that it gives me the opportunity to check myself. You know, I have things that I specifically write, what I'm working on, things that I want to achieve, what my day looks like, how I am in this area of my life. And then I can watch, you know, progression of that over time.
I think it's interesting. If you look to the Bible, you look in the Old Testament, often God would say to a judge or a prophet of the nation of Israel, write this down so that they'll remember. Or build this, you know, this altar, this thing, so that they'll remember. The idea that people forget where they've come from, it's throughout Scripture, and we know this as a part of life. So we have to have something that we put in the ground. Again, for me, this is writing, maybe something else that causes us to be able to look back and go, oh, Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
But then checking yourself, man, that's so good. But you need to have the right people in your life to do that.
Help you do
because
that.
You can't do it alone.
Yeah.
You'll always tell yourself you're doing fine.
Yeah.
So surround yourself with people that will tell you exactly what you need to hear.
Yeah, I agree.
And 100%. Give them permission to do it, I guess, right?
That's another good point that we could dive into is like, swallow your pride.
Yeah.
Put the right community around you that you trust to be able to speak truth into your life.
Yeah.
Because that's hard and it's painful, I mean, you got cancer. Well, getting cancer out of your body is going to be painful.
Sure.
At some point, whether it be chemo, they got to do a surgery, cut it, whatever. Like the analogy, right, is that it's painful.
Yeah.
And so don't expect that some cancerous thing in your life being removed is not going to be painful. Right. It's going to be,
Yeah.
And so I think to your specific point, allowing people to be part of that sharpening process.
That's good. Yeah.
Is powerful.
Put them in your life before you need it.
Pre-decision.
Yeah. Pre-decide.
Yeah.
Oh, what else?
Growth mindset I have is kind of like and that's kind of like a term that I think it's overplayed now. But what I mean by that is consider everything as an opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
I heard this, and I'm not here yet, and I forgot who said this, but I was reading a book one time and was talking about this person was saying that they developed the mindset that they love being wrong because it means that they got to grow.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
And nobody likes, I hate being wrong. I mean, I'll be honest, but I'm trying to develop the mindset of like when I'm wrong, considering it a good thing. Like, hey, this is an opportunity for me to grow in this area and to be better in this area. Yeah. And so whether that's, growth mindset in the modern world we see today, reading books and, self-reflection, that kind of thing, I think is important. But I think that allowing yourself to see, failures in your life, things that you would see as falls as an opportunity to grow. If you can shift that perspective, right? And we talk about a lot. Yeah. I think that's powerful.
Yeah, that's good. I was thinking about this the other day, actually. My two youngest kids are at a private Christian school, and it's funny. So my two older kids were homeschooled all the way through.
Yeah.
Right? My two younger kids, 16 and 14, were homeschooled up until high school. And for a lot of reasons, we put them in the school. And it's a big Christian school in our area. My kids have always been athletic. We've had them involved in jiu-jitsu and other things, but they've never really played, like the big organized sports, right? Yeah. And so my daughter, who went to this school as a sophomore, decided last year she wanted to play soccer. I'm like, but you've never played soccer. She's like, well, they have a team, and it's kind of a walk-on thing. They aren't really tryouts. They'll take anyone on the team. That doesn't mean you're going to play, but they'll take anyone on the team. And I want to do it. And she did it. She did really well. She had a great year. She's got a great coach. She's going to play again this year, and she's learned a lot, and she's really invested in it. And it's been cool to see that. But then this year, my son, who is a sophomore this year, decided he wanted to be on the football team. And I'm like, but you've never played football.
As a sophomore,
As a sophomore, you've never played football. And they have a big football team. They have a great football team. And he could walk onto the JV team, right? And so he did, and he's doing it and making it happen. But I was thinking about my kids and just thinking like kind of growth mindset, right? Yeah. It's like, well, I've never done this before, but I'm going to try it and see how it works out. And there's no fear in trying something brand new in a new place with a lot going on. And I don't know how you create that in your kids as a parent, but I'm thankful that our kids at least have looked at that and said, it's okay to try something.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, then you go do something else, right?
Yeah. I think it's super cool, man. My kids are young and they're kind of still in the phase where they check with mom and dad for everything. But I think it's super cool to hear that because obviously you've raised them with a level of confidence that they're able to actively take on new tasks like that.
Well, I'm hoping that it's not just high school sports. I'm hoping that that is a mindset they've adopted at some point.
Carries on, and
they'll take that into their lives.
Yeah.
And you don't ever want to get to the point in your life where you're like, I can't learn anymore or do anymore or it's fun to watch people that have a growth mindset.
Yeah, growth mindset.
And see it happen.
It is. It's impressive when people get, because when you see guys that are older and you're like, oh, you're so wise, but you'll see some guys that, are wise, but they're actually stay in that growth mindset, continually to pursue new and hard things. Yeah. Because they want to learn, they want to continue to grow.
Yeah. Someone that's helped me in my life over the years is now in his mid-90s, and he's coming toward the end of his life. But one of the things we've had in common since I met him 20 years ago was books. And I love reading. He really enjoys reading, and he's collected over the years. And what's so funny to me, or interesting to me, it has been watching him as this guy in his 70s when I met him, 80s, now in his 90s. I mean, he'll spend his day reading books to learn how to be a better leader, a better husband, a better this or that. And you always think like, well,
haven't you got to figure it out?
He's like, I've always got something to learn. There's always something new to learn. Well, but that's the growth mindset.
So powerful.
That causes you to keep moving forward even when things get crazy in your life.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
That's really good. The next thing I had, and you have a couple more than me, I'm sure, but is just then take the next step. And I think it's easy for us to pre-decide, to know our why, to strategize, put the right pieces in place, to do all of these things that we've talked about. But the hardest part of that whole thing is taking the next step, putting the next foot forward, right? Yeah. And so at some point, you've got to stop planning. At some point, you have to stop strategizing. At some point, you have to stop gathering the resources and just take the next step.
What do you think keeps people from taking that step?
I think it's a lot of things. I think sometimes it's fear.
Yeah.
They feel like, as you just talked about, they failed to some degree, and taking the next step is just going to be more of that.
Yeah.
Or they're comfortable where they are. They don't have that growth mindset. I'm comfortable in this world, and going into the unknown is scary. And so there's fear. It's interesting to see people kind of in middle life. They've come out of their 20s and 30s. They're in a good job. They've got a house. They've got a pretty stable family or whatever. And they may have been risk takers at one point in their life, but they stopped taking risks because I've gotten here. It's comfortable, and there's fear. So I think there's that. I think a lot of times it's just, they're just tired.
Yeah.
I say they. You don't take the next step because you're tired.
Yeah, whoever it is.
I've been marching for a long time, and I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
I think it can be a lot of things, and that goes back to, know yourself and bring people into your life that can help you. But I think there are a lot of reasons for not moving forward.
Yeah.
But if you don't take the next step, it doesn't matter how good you are at the rest of this. We all know people who are super good planners and big brain strategizers and all the rest of it.
They won't move. Yeah. I agree. I think fear is the biggest thing for me, and I'm talking personally as well. But something I've been wrestling with recently is this odd concept of, it's not fear of the thing, it's fear of fear. And what I mean by that is, if people would just take the step, they would realize that when they're actually taking action, that fear dissipates, right? Yeah.
We play sports. People who play sports know this, right? I grew up playing football. You're scared to death until that kickoff, boom. Yeah. You're no longer scared anymore. As a professional fighter, I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing about to step foot in this cage? I freaking step foot on that canvas, bro. And there's no fear.
You break the fear barrier
completely, right? Yeah.
So it's not fear of the actual thing. It's the fear of the fear. I don't even think it's fear of failure. You're scared to feel the fear that you might fail, right? And so you never break that fear barrier.
Yeah.
And so I guess my encouragement to people would be like, break the fear barrier, because you're going to realize that while you're doing it, it's actually not as scary as you thought it was. You know? You've conquered the fear by stepping through that barrier. And now when you're taking steps, when you're actually marching, you're gonna have hardship, but you're like, oh, like this is actually, I can do this.
Yeah.
So taking action in itself is the first step in gaining confidence over that fear.
Yeah, that's good. Even if it's the fear of having that hard conversation or doing whatever. Yeah, you're more afraid of that.
Feeling.
That feeling.
You're afraid of the feeling.
And once you start it, you're
kind of like, well, I got this. I can figure this out.
Yeah, that's good.
So
fear. And I think there are a lot of reasons to keep people at bay, but fear is such an overwhelming one.
It is. It's a big one. Yeah. Of course, we could say a million things, right? But yeah, I think fear is the kind of the overarching theme.
So what do you say to someone, and this is a conversation I have often, someone who has done the right things, they've done all the stuff we just talked about. They may have found themselves in a bad situation, but they got into a good situation, got the right people around them, they did all the stuff. They've been marching, but they've been doing it for a while, and now they're dealing with a setback of some kind. Something blew up in a way they didn't expect, and that blew them back. And now they feel like I'm right back where I started. That's a very hopeless situation.
Yeah.
And I think the steps forward are probably the same.
Yeah.
But it's different when you've already done it. And here I am. Maybe it's a loss of a marriage, or you've been grinding out with your kids and you made some progress and now they're off doing something that's crazy, or you worked so hard at a job, doing the right things, dealing with the difficulties, and you lost that job for some reason, or, whatever. It could be a million things, but you did the right stuff. You put these pieces in place, but something crazy happened and you're back to the beginning. What do you say to that person? Because that's an easy time to go, I'm done. I'm not doing this.
This is such a hard thing, right? I think that I've had this conversation a lot in recent years. And I think that considering all the things that we've already covered, right? We could go back and rename all these things, right? Sure. But I think that specifically the growth that happens in the challenge, like we've talked about previously, like this detour, roadblock analogy where like, hey, the detour is terrible. It's destructive, but it is where the growth happens.
Right.
Can you consider yourself, grateful for the hardship in that time? That's a hard thing to grasp, especially like you said, like, hey, you've done all these things and now you're just kind of set back to square one. I think that being adaptable is one area that we can lean into, I think, to help us past this point. And what I mean by that is you did this thing, right? You did this thing, you're doing good, you're getting success, and then boom, you get set back, right? And it feels like, oh my gosh, like I'm about to hammer this again.
Yeah.
Well, can you go at it a different angle? Can you shift, your thought process and how you're trying to achieve this so that you don't encounter the same steps and then hit the same wall at the end of the day?
Right.
I think adaptability is huge in how we pursue things, especially when we're trying to do, big things in life that we all are trying to do. I think that you have to be able to make micro adjustments, right?
Yeah.
And we said this last time. And in jujitsu, right? The jujitsu analogy is like, okay, well, I try this sweep and he stuffs it. I try this sweep and he stuffs it. I try this sweeps and that's persistence and perseverance, right?
Yeah.
But then sometimes it's like, hey, why don't you try this other?
Let's make an adjustment.
Let's make an adjustment, right?
Yeah.
Let's be adaptable.
Yeah.
Let's not be so rigid that when we face hardship, we break.
Yep.
Let's be fluid enough that when we face hardship, we can shift and can move and we can roll and we can flow.
Yeah.
And so I think, that's a hard concept and honestly a hard question for me to answer. But I think that being adaptable, in knowing that that you're going to face hardship, that you can make some micro adjustments to get on the other side of that, I think is a good thing.
Yeah. It's asking, what did I learn from that blow up? And it really is having a bigger perspective of the path that you're on. It's all part of the process, the good, the bad. That's that Hebrews 12:1, run with patience the race set before you.
Yeah.
It's over when you die.
Yeah.
And so it's not over yet. Sometimes maybe you need to take yourself out of the game for a minute. You need to get those people around you and get some help and get some counsel and get back on your feet. But having pre-decided to continue moving forward, this is just a setback and you're going to have to grind through it, really.
Yeah. I love the this whole, like challenge equals progress idea. And it's something that I really, really try to hammer into myself because, that's happened. It's happened to everybody in life. It's happened to me. Like I'm getting somewhere and I'm feeling like, oh, this is really successful. And then boom, setback, big setback, and you're like, oh my gosh, like you could easily fall into like the, oh, this is a failure. So I'm going to quit. Right.
Yeah.
Or, this is too hard. I'm not going to do it again. And instead of realizing that, every challenge that I face actually makes me stronger at the end of the day.
Yeah.
There's nothing in life worth achieving that wasn't hard to achieve.
Yeah.
And so I've been really trying to lean into that and it's helped me. But that's a hard concept, man.
It is hard.
What do you think? What would you say to somebody? It's like, man, like I did all the good things. I've done this and I've been leading this area in my marriage. I've been leading this area as a father. I'm doing this in my business and my wife left me and whatever, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I mean, it is hard. It's the things we just talked about. It's taking a bigger view of your journey and understanding it's longer than just this moment. That you can learn from this, something that will help you later. It's all of those things. For me, what it boils down to personally is I can't control anything outside of what God's given to me to steward over.
Yeah.
I'm not God. I can't control other people. I need to accept whatever responsibility I have for the failure. We talked about failure, but it's
what accountability you share.
There needs to be some accountability. If I shared in that, then I need to learn from that and get that right. But I can't control what anyone else does. All I can do every day is get up and be the person God called me and created me to be and steward over whatever resources he places in my hand.
Yeah.
That's all I can do.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take the hurt of those things away or the sting of those things away, but it does bring some clarity. I made the statement the other day. I was preaching on a passage in Psalm and made the statement that when God is your goal, your path becomes clear. When God is your goal, your path becomes clear. So if I wake up every day and just ask the question, what does God want me to do today? Again, it doesn't take away a lot of the pain and the emotion and stuff, and I don't want to diminish that, but it helps me to go, okay, in spite of all this stuff, what does God want me to do today?
Yeah.
What would please God today? And then do that.
Yeah.
And if that means he wants me to start 10 steps back from where I was yesterday,
guess what?
That's on God. And I just have to do that.
Yeah. Man, I do love that. I love that you bring it back to that, and we're sitting behind this thing that says march or die, right?
Yeah.
I think that, we often create this super complicated approach to these things.
Yeah.
And it's really, if we want to dial it back, it's like, hey, okay, that happened. So now wake up and take the next right step.
What's the next right step?
What's the next right step in the right direction? And I think that, that's super powerful.
That's good, man. Good. You have any closing thoughts on this? There's a lot to say on perseverance. I'm sure we'll talk more about it as we kind of unpack a lot of this, but it's not easy, right?
It's not.
And it's not 10 steps from Sean and Jeremy either.
Yeah.
But there are things we can put into our lives that help us move.
Yeah. I think that for people listening, obviously, they can take these examples. These are literally just things that we're like, hey, this is what's been powerful in our life. Yeah. But I think that knowing, right, broad perspective is like, hey, what's your vision? What's your master plan? Based off your identity and purpose. What's your vision? What's your strategy, predecision, your plan of action to achieve that?
Right.
How are you going to, react to hardship and challenge along the way? And the answer to those questions will get you to where you want to be. Good. Will allow you to develop your own list of how you're going to persevere in life. I think that's important.
That's good. I take it back to kind of where we started. Perseverance is a superpower. You can have all the right, if you're Christian, like the right theology. You can be someone who's super read and super smart and high IQ and super capable. You can be all those things, but if you don't persevere through difficulty, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
You don't accomplish much, if anything, in your life.
Yeah. Agreed.
It's good. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. It's a good show.
All right. Good show. Always a good show.
Always a good show.
For those of you that are listening, again, thank you for doing that. And, we create this content with really one goal, and that's to be a help. And there are a lot of reasons people do podcasts and do the rest of it. Our goal is to provide content that will be helpful to you, really based on kind of our own experience and lived experience and things we've learned. So I hope it's that for you. If it is, please share it out with others. We make it extremely easy to share either from what is posted on social media, and you can find Sean on social media. You can find me on social media, March or Die on social media, the organization that we're part of, the Mighty Oaks Foundation, you can find on social media as well. So all that's there makes it easy to share. You can also share these episodes from YouTube or the audio episodes from wherever you listen from. So please go ahead and check that out. And then take some time, go to Life Audio. I mentioned this at the end of just about every show, lifeaudio.com. Life Audio is the platform that allows us to have the audio version of this show. So if you're listening to the audio, it is Life Audio that makes that possible. And they've got some other incredible shows there as well. So please go ahead and check that out. And then as we leave, I'll do my best today to remind you, as I do every week, when the bullets are flying, when the ground around you is exploding, when things are out of control, you only have two choices, not 1,000. You have two choices. Are you going to stay where you are and die, or will you march? And the choice is always yours.